Welcome, everybody, back to the Empowered Podcast. I, as always, am just so grateful that you're here. This is such a special place to be able to share the thoughts that are crossing through my mind, the different pieces that are on my heart, and getting a chance to just share my experience with you. And while I know you're familiar with all of these episodes being primarily me, my story, my teachings, I really, especially in this theme of resiliency, wanted to open up space to bring on somebody else to share a bit of her story, share a bit of her experience. So I'm so excited to welcome to you today our guest for the day, Agasha. Go ahead and say hello and introduce yourself, my dear.
Hi, my name is Agasha, as introduced. I am originally from Uganda, East Africa, and I've lived in the BC area for 2 years in August. And I'm currently studying hospitality management at VIU. And yeah, I'm pretty much enjoying it. In my free time, I love to create music. I play the guitar, so I just like to channel my feelings that way. I also just recently started a YouTube channel where also give me a greater space to be creative and also just to impact the world is my hope. And I use a wheelchair, so I'm very adamant about creating awareness for wheelchair access, or even just like accessible person. How do I say this? Like, have people understand how to interact with people like wheelchairs or other have other mobility challenges. So yeah, I just kind of here and there love music, love creating awareness, love traveling, love exploring. So yeah, I would say that's pretty much it about me.
Amazing. I love how incredibly I want to say well-rounded. That's not the word. That's not the word, but like you have such diverse interests and you have passion in so many different areas. And I think that's part of what really drew me to you and the energy that you exude. Let's talk for just a moment about what brought you to Canada. And I know you shared this with me before, but share it with everyone who's listening. What brought you from Uganda to Canada?
Well, I knew I visited Canada twice before coming, and I knew I really wanted to study here. I just didn't know where. And then I decided that I wanted it to be somewhere that wasn't as cold. So that pretty much just left the BC area. But also, I was really interested in the hospitality management course, and VIU just happened to have teach it in the way that was interesting for me. It had like the practical aspect, but also like the technological aspect. But most other schools just had it as like very textbook. So I really just enjoyed the fact that they tapped into making it practical. So I feel like that's what ended up bringing me to Canada. I also have family here, so that was nice too. Yeah.
And yeah. What to you has been, other than how much colder it is here, what to you has been one of the biggest shifts that you've noticed in your couple of years of being here in Canada in terms of perhaps the culture or location rather than when you were back in Uganda?
Well, here a lot more things are more accessible, so I find that I'm able to go, they're a lot more accessible, so I'm able to go a lot more places alone, so I'm a lot more independent here than I am at home. So I feel like that gives me a different kind of confidence here than I do have at home. So that's pretty nice. I'm also a lot more adventurous here. But also just not a so positive thing, but like I'm more aware of like being Black than I am back home, because everybody's Black there. Mm-hmm. And so so coming here, I am more aware of like, oh, I'm different from the majority of the people here. So yeah, I would say those are the two main things. Like, access is better, but I also just realized that I'm a Black person in a not so Black place,
Yeah. And interesting because the independence aspect is really about obviously like embodying that independence. And yet at the same time, the skin color aspect is almost like a sense of isolation per se.
Yeah.
So it's really about bringing all of your energy into you.
For sure. So I find that I have to be a lot more out there, because being in a wheelchair, there are already certain things that people perceive about you that are not so positive. And then if you top that off with being Black, it's like you can't just like let people step over you. Like you have to like put yourself out there a lot more than probably I would have back home, because everybody's like me. There's not like, in terms of my skin color, there's not that, that difference. So yeah.
So, wow. Yeah. And how does that to you relate to the concept of what you believe resiliency to be? in terms of, you have to stand up for yourself or put yourself out there or actually show up with others so that they actually acknowledge you or have that conversation or get to know you or let go of some of the beliefs that they might have about your level of access. What does that have to do with resiliency for you?
I mean, I think it's just like, understanding that even though I speak about it like once, I know I have to keep speaking about it, raising awareness about it. Even if I talk to one group of people, I have to understand that like, other people might need to be told again about it. So I feel like even though like I have a channel out, I post things about wheelchair access, and a lot of people comment and they say, oh, we get this, we get that. But I feel like I also have to show up in person when I go to places and say, well, are you going to think about making this accessible? Or are you going to think about like, it's not enough to just stay it online. It also has to be like in person.
Yeah.
For me, I feel like the way I'm able to stay resilient is just to like, be patient and know that like, I may not see the end of things like, being as accessible, but like, I feel like I'm doing my part for like, the next generation to come or something like that. So I'm not really doing it for like this awesome end product, I guess, because it's a long process. Like sometimes it's overwhelming thinking about all the places that are just not accessible, but it's just like, focusing like little by little on like, and then we'll get to like the bigger picture. I guess I would say that's what resilience.
Well, and so even what you just shared there, I feel like is so relatable to, for those of you listening or watching, for some of the things that we've talked about, where you can't focus on the end result because that can be so overwhelming at how far it is or how perhaps inaccessible it feels right now. But what I heard from you is celebrating the wins and acknowledging the small steps that you as an individual and we as a collective can take to make difference now, knowing that we got to be happy with what we have now because otherwise it's too overwhelming. It's too much pressure. It's too much.
It is too overwhelming. Yeah. Cause like back home, as I said, it's not accessible as it is here. But when I used to have braces, so my orthodontist that I visited before my accident, she actually changed her place after I got my accident so I could still be able to come.
Oh.
So it was really nice. I mean, like, it was really nice, but I enjoyed the fact that she did that, but it just sucked that like, you have to have somebody be in that position for you to actually change it up. But it was really amazing to see that someone was willing to do that. And so I posted about it in like a way of like, inspiring people. I'm like, well, just because you don't know anyone, what am I trying to say? Just because you don't know anyone doesn't mean that like once you make your place accessible, people might actually come. Because there's some places I know of that I want to go. I've just not been there because they're just not accessible. And it's like, I'm not going to go there and stress myself out. But yeah.
And I was thinking about this morning about how we do, like, I believe that every single one of you listening and watching to this are good human beings and care deeply about others, but we only know what we know. And if it's never been brought to our attention before, and if we've never had, and like you said, if someone doesn't know someone in their network that has a wheelchair or that is within a minority or is moving through these different challenges, we might not be aware of it until someone brings it forward to our attention, until someone like yourself, Agasha, shows up and says, hey, this is important and this is why. And once we understand those pieces, that's when it's our diligency to just make the change, make it a priority, allow that to be a priority so that everybody feels accepted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because even like speaking about here, because I feel like a lot of people listening are here, so I'm trying to bring examples from everywhere. But on the island, like I don't think majority of like the nightclubs are accessible. Like they just aren't. Like, and some of my friends go, and I mean there are also personal reasons why I don't go. I just don't like being constricted, especially in a place where people are supposed to like have fun and all of that. So it's just like I guess an idea that some people have that like people in wheelchairs or people with mobility challenges can't have fun or can't like go to certain places just for enjoyment. They're only going to places like for necessity reasons. So it's like breaking that barrier of understanding that like if an able-bodied person can go there, then there should be a way for someone in a wheelchair to go there. Like
totally,
you don't really know somebody. It should just be open that way. So that's my biggest hope for the future, for different places. Like when they are making a plan, it should just already be accessible. They shouldn't change it up just because one person wants to come in, like Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. I'm kind of overfilled with love for you right now and your mission and the fact that you're so committed to it. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. Thank you for coming to this country and sharing that as well, and sharing so much of your passion and allowing yourself to not just be a physical embodiment example of it, but also someone who's willing to raise your voice about it. Someone who is willing to actually stand up and say, hey, things need to change. Because as I mentioned, for everyone who doesn't already have someone like you in their life, they don't know any different. It doesn't make a difference to them. And so as soon as you show up, you get to be that inspiration. You get to be that
Yeah.
reason. And I hear you that it would be nice for you to not have to do that. And I think that from what I can see, you're at the forefront of really helping to create that change. And sometimes as the leader, it can be hard to see the full impact of just your presence is creating with others, because there's probably a part of you that does want, like, why do I have to carry this? Why can't someone else do this? Why can't someone else have come before me and helped to make this happen? And when those moments come, just remember, girl, you're amazing. And you, how old are you?
I'm 21.
You're 21?
I'm 21.
Oh my God. Amazing. Yeah. Please, anytime that you do go into that place where it just feels so overwhelming, remind yourself that just you being here right now and having this conversation with me and sharing these words is making such an impact. And I know that some of you listening and watching have businesses. And I know that some of you are considering, how can I create changes to my business? So why don't we talk about that for a second? What are some things that someone who owns a storefront could do, or even just start thinking about, to create this change and make it more accessible?
I mean, for one, I'll just say have actual people in those positions come and check your property out. Because I know a lot of people would love to just be asked, is this okay? Is this, because I think I had somebody go to one of the facilities, and like, he has a friend that uses a wheelchair, but they invited him to come and look at it. And it's like, well, I mean, I guess the friend does have a lot more input than the business would, but you should just ask the person in the wheelchair themselves, does this work? And there's a lot of like different like codes, like depending on, I think, which state you live in, like what is considered accessible. But I feel like some of them are just borderline, like just needing it. So I feel like the greatest thing, I guess, is just to ask, if you do know an individual, or just put out, do you know anyone who's willing to come and look at my space? And in addition to that, I would also say is that sometimes if a space is not accessible, that's not the end of the world for me. It just sucks more when people's attitude towards people in a wheelchair sucks too. So it's like, so I'll give an example. I was in Belize, and we went what do we do? We went not skydiving, parasailing. That's the word. Parasailing. And they weren't, my sister and my dad were gonna go, and my dad he's really big on just getting me to try things out. So he just wanted to know if they were willing to take me on as somebody who uses a wheelchair. And they don't normally advertise that, because they don't know how that's gonna work. But this guy was very like, well, if you trust me and you trust like the fact that like I'll try my best. I don't know what to do, but I'm open to listening to how I can help you best. So like, I know that they hadn't planned it to be for a wheelchair user, but the fact that this person's personality was so open to trying, and even if he was wrong, he was willing to take that, that advice. So I feel like even if you don't have like, the money or maybe like the infrastructure to make like your business accessible, just work on your staff, work on your perception of how to deal with, people with mobility challenges. Because I feel like that's where it starts. You're gonna have an accessible building, but if your staff suck, it's like, if the service sucks, it kind of just doesn't really, help. So I would say those two main things, like, asking people in wheelchairs, and then just also working on one's, attitude towards people.
I think those are really incredible suggestions, and they both to me relate to someone's I feel like because we've been overrun with this masculine energy and patriarchy in business for so long, that a lot of us think that we are supposed to know all the answers, and a lot of times we hold this energy of, well, I don't want to ask questions, or I don't want to give off that I don't know what it should be, or I'll just pretend that I'm not even aware of it, because we're so uncomfortable even asking someone's opinion or asking for help. And And that second piece that you offered, especially that experience with parasailing, how amazing. And just like everyone listening, remember, it's not what you do, it's who you be. It's who
Yeah.
you are. It's how you treat a human being. It's the engagement that you create together. You don't have to have everything figured out. You don't need anything to be perfect yet, because you're still in that learning phase and things are growing. And just be with people. Just love.
Just
Just love.
love, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that those are the two main things that for sure. Yeah,
Mm.
sure, that would definitely point out.
So you had mentioned before about this kind of preconceived idea that individuals in wheelchairs do things for necessity and not for fun. Can you share, other than parasailing, can you share something fun that you have done for yourself, with yourself, that maybe some people would be surprised by?
Well, I went bungee jumping
Yeah, you
here.
did.
Yeah, here at Wild Play in Nanaimo. That was pretty cool. I didn't think I could go because I just didn't think it was possible. And when they brought it up to me, I was doing a position through Tourism Nanaimo, and they went for they went for a trip there, and they asked if somebody in a wheelchair could do it, and I said, yeah, we just need to know some of her like her background story and all that. And they were super nice. They let me know everything that was happening as they were doing it. They kept me informed, which is I love that. I don't just like things being done to me. I like to know what's going on. So they were really good on that. So like that was pretty cool. And yeah, I think that's the coolest thing that I've done, that I would say that I would think somebody in a wheelchair couldn't do. So I'd expect someone else would think someone in a wheelchair couldn't do.
That's so cool.
For sure. Yeah. But in terms of like, I mean, it's not as wild as bungee jumping, but for my course, you are required to have like serving, like to serve in a fine dining setting, as part of the course. So like, I didn't really think I was going to be able to do that, because you're supposed to like, hold the plate in a certain way and all that. And they hadn't had anybody in the course that used a wheelchair before. So they didn't know how they were going to go about it. So I basically just had to learn, different ways of making it work. And I also just had to work on my communication to make sure, because like, I'm someone who likes to do things on my own, but in terms of like making sure that the quality of service was good, I had to learn to like basically say, okay, even though I want to do this, I know that somebody else can make this, work better. So I'd say that I didn't think I'd be able to serve, but I did that for like 2 years. Well, 2 years in the course. So that was pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. Yeah.
I love that. And I think that's really important that you shared that. I think that's really valuable, and also a beautiful testament to the schooling that you're doing, in that they are there to support you to find your way through it too. Because I think that if you don't have anyone in your life that is in a wheelchair, you tend to not think about these things. So even putting together a curriculum, you might not consider what someone else's personal challenges might be with that, and how beautiful that you were able to bring that awareness and follow through with the commitment and make it happen for yourself. I would say, quite resilient.
I try.
And
Yeah.
just a funny story. When we first connected before we were chatting here, that's when I found out that Agasha had gone bungee jumping. And it's so funny because Wild Play in Nanaimo is the exact same place that I went bungee jumping for the first and only time, because I hated it. And I went there. A friend took me as a surprise, and I couldn't let myself jump off. I had to have them push me off because my heart wouldn't allow me. It wasn't possible. And I thought that was so neat that we have that in common, that we both got to bungee jump from that exact same landing, from that same place, over that river. Woo!
Over that river, yes. Those like the split second once you're over, you're like, yep, it's happening.
I just remember every cell in my body being like, this isn't normal. This is not how you evolve. This is how you die.
I know. It's like, who decided to do this for enjoyment?
Yeah. Oh man.
Crazy, but yeah.
So actually, one thought that I had while you were talking about this is, on your YouTube channel, or wherever you desire to, I feel like it could be fun, if you haven't already, maybe you have, to share about different places in the Nanaimo area or Vancouver Island where you've been, that have been really supportive, even if they're not fully accessible, but are supportive, to allow you to come in, and even like bungee jumping, and even that fine dining place, and sharing some of those businesses, so that those who are following you, Vancouver Island is such a great tourist destination that I'm sure some of them will end up there. That'd be a great way for you to share that.
It sure is. Yeah, I visited a few places during last summer, like when my parents were here. So Wild Play is one. I know we went whale watching,
Mm.
and I always forget the place. I don't know. Was it Courtney?
Courtney is a place. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of the two. We went a lot of places last summer, so
That's
all the
fair.
names get confused in my head. But I think it was there, and when we weren't able to get, they have like a wheelchair boat, a wheelchair accessible boat, but like by the time we went there, because we booked late, it wasn't available, but we still wanted to go. So this guy he just said, well, my boat isn't accessible, but I'm open to helping in any way. And we went on, and he was super nice. So
Mm.
I wish I remembered the name of the company. I know my mom knows because she booked it, but it was really awesome to see that, even though they weren't labeled as an accessible boat, like his personality was just open, and he was like, yeah, just let me know if I'm doing anything wrong, but I'm here to help, and I'm here to make sure you have a good experience, which we did. So I enjoyed that. Yeah, but I'll pretty much say majority of the places in Nanaimo are pretty accessible to the places that I've been. I mean, most people are pretty nice
Mm-hmm.
about it. Nanaimo is a very chill place, so regardless
Yeah.
of their people are just nice all around. Yeah.
I'm really happy to hear that, because that's been my experience too. I lived in Victoria for 6 years, and the island has always had a place of my heart there. And it is, it's just chill. It's just relaxed. It's just such a lovely island.
Yeah.
And let's just go into for a moment. Can you speak to the concept, like you brought up before, of even just being a Black woman in a wheelchair in a country that's, in the area that you're in, that's predominantly white, and what that experience has been like for you? Like, what have you really noticed about yourself and about others?
Oh, for sure. Oh, and because you brought up Victoria, Wishart Gardens is another accessible
Oh,
place.
yes.
That's
And so beautiful.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's endless. I don't even think we went through the whole place, but it's awesome. So
Mm.
yeah. But back to being Black. I guess it's just I when I first came, I'll just a lot of people were like, "Oh, your English is so good," and at first I thought it was a compliment. Like I really honestly took it as a compliment. But the more I heard it, it just really translated in my mind that, oh, you're Black. I didn't expect you to speak so well. And it was
Oh,
just
mhm.
like, it stopped being a compliment and started being like an ignorant comment. And I was
Yep.
like, well, yeah. And so, I mean, I like being sarcastic sometimes. Obviously, I choose who I'm sarcastic with because, but sometimes when people tell me I have good English, I say, oh, you too. Because it's like,
Yep.
I went to school. What do
Yep.
you expect? We have schools where I'm from. And yeah, so when a lot of people hear my name or see my name and then they hear me, they're very confused because they're like, Agasha is not an English name or
Mhm.
a name that people are most familiar with. So they get confused. And it was like, I remember looking for a recommendation for a job, and this lady, she's really awesome. She meant well, but in one of her points for this this place to like take me on was I spoke good English,
Mm.
and it was like, I don't know, it just didn't sit right with me. It was like, yeah, I know I'm from East Africa, but I don't know why that's like such a
Yeah.
something that has to be highlighted, you
Yeah.
know. So, but yeah, I guess also just feeling like in hiring positions, I don't feel like I equate as much because first of all, I'm in a wheelchair. I feel like I have to, prove myself that way. And also just coming back to the fact that, yeah, if you see my name in an application, it's really not the widest of names. So,
Yeah.
so there's that too. But
Yeah, and
yeah.
even I just want to pause you for a sec. I think that something that I've experienced personally, obviously being very Caucasian, and currently living in a community. It's a very small town that is, we all call it redneck because it's a bunch of farmers and hillbillies and people with really like often closed minds. Not everyone here is like that, but there's a lot of people in that area, in this area as well. And um, something that has come up for me through the shift that has been occurring across the globe, but primarily in the States with Black Lives Matter, is that those of us who are white and have grown up in more white areas, we don't even realize something like seeing a name, realizing that it's not an English name, and then passing it to the side. That's not even a thought process. It just would become something that someone does. And something that I've realized is that is atrocious. And that is so wrong, but something that I don't think I thought about before. I don't think I even that even crossed my mind. Now, I don't think that I would push someone aside because of their name, but I also
Mhm.
can't say that because I grew up in a predominantly white area with a lot of English names. And so
Yeah.
I'm really grateful that you're bringing that up right now, because that's something that I witnessed inside of me, like, holy crap, this is what the systemic racism is. This is where I used to think that being colorblind was a good thing and just everyone is equal, but it's
Mhm.
things like that that make that not true.
Yeah. And also, like, when people tell, when I hear people, no one has personally told me that, oh, I don't see color. I don't really find that like a very, like, yes, it's a nice comment, but it's like, I want you to see that I'm black. I don't want
Yeah.
you to not see color. I want you to see that I'm black, but I just don't want you to act negatively towards me being black. So yeah, so I feel like people try to find it a safe thing to say, but I feel like it's better to say, no, call me black. A lot of people are so scared to say
Yes.
black. And I'm
Yes.
talking to my friends, it's always funny, I laugh in my head, but they always have this hesitation when they want to point out somebody. And it's like, he was the only black person in the crowd, but they're like, oh, the guy with the hats. And it's like, you can say he's black. You can say he's black. It's okay.
Oh,
But
it's
just that
honestly,
hesitation, it's like, why is it such a negative term?
I think from my perspective, because I'm so glad that you're bringing that up, because that's real for me, that I never wanted to point out anybody's skin tone or color, because I was, I guess, taught, I don't know if anyone ever said it to me, but like taught through osmosis and through my upbringing, to just respect everybody. But I love what you said there, because yeah, I do want to acknowledge that you're black, because also in acknowledging that, it's acknowledging all aspects of your history and your family and your culture and every part that has made you into who you are. And if I were to continue to be colorblind or be uncomfortable calling out the skin color that you have, it's like burying your truth. It's like burying
Yeah.
your history. And that, to me, it just, my whole body is vibrating right now, thinking about how that's how I've been living, thinking that that was the best way to be. And I am so freaking grateful that that is shifting and going away, and that there's individuals like yourself who are even willing to just have this open conversation. And I feel so safe to talk to you with it.
Yeah, I feel like conversation is in anything, in any difficult, like, time. I feel like conversation is a great way to evolve like the situation and
Yeah.
evolve the mindset. But yeah, back to like, I just feel like black, even just calling somebody black is a more open way, because a lot of people resort to even saying African American, even here. And it's like, first of all, I'm not American. And it just kind of like, it just kind of like erases the fact that some people may be from different places, maybe
Yeah.
from other African countries, or like, I'm not American. I don't feel like I need to be, put in that category of just
Yeah.
African American. But yeah, so I feel like there just needs to be more comfort in saying black. Like, there's nothing bad about it. It's just, yeah, it's just what it is.
So, question for you, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but even with sort of your circle of friends, when people, if you notice that they're a bit uncomfortable to say someone's skin color, or to say something to you about being black or whatever it is, do you call them out on it, or do you just let it slide?
When I was new, like because I've been here almost 2 years. When I first came, because it was different for me. I'd never actually really felt like I'm the only black person in my class.
Mm-hmm.
So when we'd be like reading certain stuff, or like they bring up somewhere in Africa, you would just sense like eyes on you, like I'm supposed to represent the whole continent. Like, no, I'm just from one tiny country there, and that's what I know. And that's what it is. But when people recently, I've actually just like been calling out people, like,
Good.
if they say the N-word, I'm like, and they're not black, or even if
Mm-hmm.
I just don't feel like it's a relevant word to say, I'm
Yeah.
like, well, yeah. And recently, I had my hair out, and it's when it's out of here, it's like pretty big, and my friends were like touching it, and I realized that like they're my friends, so it's like okay. But I posted a story today about just don't touch my hair if you don't know me, like, or something like that. And my friend messaged me, she's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that I did that. But yeah, I feel like I just have to be a lot more open about just telling people that, it's not okay. It's a lot easier for me to tell people when they do something different in terms of like the way they treat someone in like a wheelchair position or all that. But I'm just working on telling people when they do something in like a black, in like a black sense, because it's like I don't want to be an angry black person or someone just finding a problem with everything. So it's like finding that balance. But I feel like I'm a lot more like, I find it a lot easier right now than I did before when I came, because it was so different for me. I wasn't used to being the only black person in my class. I wasn't, used to being looked at just because I had braids in, then I took out my hair. I wasn't used to all like the, oh, did you cut your hair questions? Oh, did you straighten your hair questions? I wasn't used to it all. I was like, so obviously I was just going along with the flow because I wanted to be unproblematic, but like, I hopefully I'm learning to like grow more and just stand up for like the fact that it's not okay. There's Google and YouTube for those things.
Totally. And I think that you speaking up, and it doesn't even have to be like from an angry place of don't do that, I can't stand there, whatever it is, but even just remember that your friends are probably so well-meaning but have no freaking clue. So when you share things, you are helping create change. You are helping them to understand how to love you more, just as you could do in every single human being can do in different ways of different boundaries and relationships and how one wants to be treated. So I'm glad that you are feeling more comfortable and grounded in yourself now in being in Canada, that you can speak up for what is important to you. And I chuckled, even though, I mean, I have no ownership of this whatsoever, but when you're talking about with your hair, when I was, just browsing through as much content as I could of what is systemic racism, how have we been doing all of these things wrong, etc., I came across this Cosmopolitan article from the magazine, and it was written by a woman who was Black, and it was talking about like the 10 things not to ask me about my hair. And it was very much about like, I can't stand when you come and you want to touch my hair. I like, back off. This is mine. And don't ask me if I cut my hair. No, this is my hair. Sometimes it's curly, sometimes it's straight. Let it go.
But I also have a problem because like I'm somebody that is carefree. So like with my friends, if they do touch my hair, I really don't care. But I don't also want it to be something so comfortable that they do it with someone they don't know. So like there's that balance. Like I don't care. It doesn't bother me, but I don't want it to I don't want to give the impression that like everybody is okay with their hair being touched or commented on in like that way. So it's just interesting. But I remember one time I took my hair out and it was in my natural form, and like back home I never think like everybody has hair like this or is braided but I remember going to the job I had at that time, and I was the only Black person there, and so I remember just thinking, oh my gosh, my hair. Like, wow, I hope they don't think I look unprofessional because my hair is out like this. And I hated the fact that I felt like that because it was my first time feeling that way. And I was just like, like when you're just around so much that is not, I guess, like you forget that, this is your normal hair. Like I can't do anything about this, but I felt like going into that workplace with my hair like that, like I just wasn't confident about it anymore, and it sucked. I was like, but this is my hair, and it's what it's gonna be. But when you constantly see like, in movies, or you see like on what's perceived as professional is when your hair is like slicked down, and it's just like, I just hope that narrative like changes in the future, because like it's our hair and we're proud of it. So
Absolutely. And I think that a part of that narrative changing is you, even though you were uncomfortable, doing it anyway and just being who you are and showing up to work. And did anyone say anything about it?
Oh, they didn't. I mean, like they didn't say anything about it, but not like they would. I mean, Nanaimo is very Canadians are very, to themselves. To themselves. So if they thought it, they didn't tell me. But yeah, it was like a split second. It wasn't like the whole day I thought about it, but it was like a split second, like, oh my gosh, do you really want to wear your hair like this and like today? But it's just, but it's the reality that most other Black girls think about when they're going to work, and they just want to leave their hair out and they're deemed unprofessional because they're just wearing their hair the way they want to wear it or the way it is.
I am so grateful for you just sharing this, because it's those, it's even like, I would think those little day-to-day things that would be like seemingly not have a lot of value, but that does have a lot of value in someone feeling comfortable and safe in who they are and feeling accepted and wanted into a community or into an environment. That, yeah, I think that's very important.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, eventually, if you decide to go back to Uganda, what is something that you feel you'll be bringing from your time in Canada to your country in Uganda and to your culture there?
I think just bringing like allowing people to understand that people in wheelchairs are able to go out and be part of society, because even though a lot of places are inaccessible, there's just this mindset that, you know, if you have a mobility challenge, you're like cursed or something like that. There's just like that extra level of like, you know, like where there's the level where they think you can't do something, and there's just another level where they think that you shouldn't even be part of society, like you should be hidden in your house. So I really feel like I just want to, you know, spread awareness that we are part of society and it is what it is. But also I just enjoy, our country is just so vast in its beauty, and like we're big for tourism and stuff. So I want to just, you know, make a lot more places accessible for that. Like a lot of the hotels there are not accessible at all. So like my hope is to build a hotel back home, to build a boutique hotel back home, and just show that, you know, places can look luxurious and can be beautiful, but also be accessible. Because I feel like people feel like they have to trade off one or the other when they're building, like, you know, fancy places, or like, well, if we put like a ramp there, it's going to look ugly. And it's like, no, you just have to plan for it before you finish your structure, and then it will look nice. So
yeah, exactly. Instead of an add-on afterwards, you map that, like bake it into the actual creation.
Yeah, I feel like that's the main thing of what I'm trying to say, is that if you plan for it before, it won't just be like something you smacked on and now it looks awkward. So I think people don't know what they don't know. So it's like, it just has to be put into people's brains that yes, we're part of society, we're part of society, we're part of society. So it's going to become something they think about.
Isn't it? I mean, I'm so proud of you for sticking to this and making this your mission, but yeah, I get it. It sucks that has to be said so many times for it to be ingrained in people's brains, but you are an incredible woman stepping into this leadership and doing so. And I would, down the road when it happens, I would love to come to Uganda and stay in your beautiful boutique hotel and witness what you've created and support what you have done for yourself and for your community. I think that's incredible. So who knows when that will be, but let's stay in touch because I'd love to come.
For sure. Well, open doors all the time. Open doors all the time. So yeah.
So for those of you who are listening and watching, if you would like to witness some of Agasha's sarcasm and hilariousness and entertaining videos, I would recommend you check out our YouTube page, because she's pretty funny. You got some good stuff going there. So can you share with us, I'll put it in the show notes, but can you share with us where they can find you, or anywhere else that they might be able to find some more information about your mission as well?
Yeah, so my YouTube is Agasha Mutesasira, which a lot of you are probably like, oh my gosh. But I don't know, should I spell it out?
No, it's okay. I'll put it in the show notes. I'll make sure it's in the YouTube link. They'll be able to see it.
All right, so she'll link that. Otherwise, y'all are gonna be like, what? But I have two Instagrams. One mainly for like where I post like different like improvements that I make towards my journey, or like more access related stuff, more wheelchair related stuff, and that's underscore and we go. And then my main account where I post more of like my music and stuff, and just like, you know, nice photos. Nice photos of myself, you know, you need some of those. Yeah, and then that's just my name, Agasha .nm. So yeah.
Okay. Amazing.
So I'd say that's where I'm most mainly is on Instagram. Yeah. I have a Facebook too. I'm not as active on that one, but yeah, cool. I'm mostly active on my two Instagrams, and then working on my YouTube.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, I'll make sure that everything is linked in all the show notes so everyone can access. Is there any last thoughts or words that you want to share around this theme of resiliency through the lens of your life? You're only 21. You still have so much ahead of you, which is incredible, but you've accomplished so much in such a short period of time. And yeah, just maybe take a moment and see if there's anything else that wants to be shared through this lens of resiliency to everybody that's listening and watching.
I guess I'll just say that don't be so focused on the end product of it. It's so easy to want to know what's gonna be what's gonna be of the future, what's gonna come out of you doing all this hard work. But just like, make it a day to day and celebrate like the little gains that you get. And also just remember to rest because there's no point in fighting for something if you're tired. Like it's so important to, when this whole like when this Black Lives Matter campaign became really big this past few months. In the beginning, I was sharing everything. I felt like I had to read everything. I felt like I had to sign every single petition. Yeah. And now I still do, but like, I felt like if I took a break, I was letting some people down. And it was like, but it's important, to give your mind and your body that rest, to like, internalize everything that's going on, and then, pick yourself back up so you can continue to fight that. So I'd say like, give yourself rest because it allows you to get a different perspective too. But yeah, so.
Oh, those are so good. So good. And it's so true. Yes, exactly. Even that last piece you just said there, allow yourself to get rest because it gives you a different perspective, which is so true. Because oftentimes we're just feeling bombarded or overwhelmed or exhausted or worried or unsure. And as soon as you pause, even if it's a matter of just, chilling out and watching TV, going for a walk outside, hanging out with your family, whatever it looks like for each individual, sometimes that creates space for the solution to find its way to you, for you to solve the problem that was stressing you out to begin with. And so that different perspective really does come from the rest. So that's beautiful wisdom for you to be sharing with everyone. Thank you for that.
Yeah, hope it helps someone out.
I think so. I think it will. For all of you who are listening and watching, I would absolutely love it if you would take a moment to share with us something that you took away from this episode. So if you're on YouTube, you can post it in the comments. If you're listening to this podcast, go ahead and either leave a comment on my Facebook page or follow Agasha on Instagram, share with her, or send me a message, whatever way you desire to. Let us know something that you've taken away from this. Let us know something that has made a difference to you in listening to this conversation, because I know I love to hear it, and I'm sure Agasha would too. And
I definitely would.
Yeah. And thank you. Thank you for sharing yourself. Thank you for showing up so courageously and sharing your resiliency and sharing your truth and sharing your story and sharing so much of yourself. I am really grateful, and I'm so excited to be able to share this with everyone who's listening and watching. Thank you, Agasha.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me on here and being open to such an awesome conversation. I had a fun time talking about the worldly things. So yeah,
all
thank
the
you
things
so much for opening your platform to this. It's really awesome.
Oh, absolutely. It is my honor. And I'm sure it's the first of many more. We've got, I hope that we have some things in the works down the road, even before I come to Uganda.
For sure. I'd love that.
Okay, amazing. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. We are so grateful that you joined us. We will talk to you all soon. Ciao.